Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cradle News Roundup coming to you live. My name is Esteban Carrillo. I'm the news editor for The Cradle, and as usual, I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, content creator and writer for The Cradle, Karim Shami, and content creator and social media manager for The Cradle, Sima Itaim. We want to thank everyone who's already joined this podcast. Please just remind you, a friendly reminder to leave a like as soon as you arrive, to leave a comment, to subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, to check out our memberships here, and above all, to check out our Patreon, where you can become a direct supporter of The Cradle. We at The Cradle have about 1 million readers per month. We need 0.5% of you to commit to being patrons, to support this project that brings you all of the latest news and that is truly independent. We at The Cradle are completely independent. I would also like to remind you to check out our merch page, where you can find some very cool Cradle merchandise that you can get for yourselves, for your family, for your coworkers. And I want to actually call out some people I met over the weekend at a Venezuela Solidarity event, some very avid Cradle fans, including some who were wearing our very own merch. That was very cool to see. I know you guys, Karim and Sima, were very excited when I
It's
sent you
amazing.
those pictures. So yeah, the Cradle makes waves. So please help us, support us. Go to our homepage. You will find the support us button that will direct you to our Patreon page. Become a Patreon if you can. If you can, tell everyone you know to do so as well. And this is going to be a reminder that you're going to be hearing of a lot this year. Every time you see us, we will remind you to go check out our Patreon. So, with that all out of the way, we really should start in Iran, where the situation has, it's still critical, I think we can say, as the title of this stream says. There is a question lingering above everything else, that is, can Iran survive another war, especially given the situation that has unfolded over the streets in the past several days. Although today you had millions marching across the Islamic Republic in support of the government, in opposition to the riots, in opposition to the foreign interference. Let's not forget, these riots that we're seeing develop across Iran are being directed by the Mossad, by Israeli intelligence agencies. Now, these images that you're seeing on screen right now are of the counter protests that happen all across Iran today. People burning the image of the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who is, lobbying to go back to Iran and be installed as the Shah Junior. I like to call him the Persian Maria Corina Machado. I think, they represent the same interest. Nevertheless, as you see, millions really took to the streets of Iran today. And, you can truly see the difference in scope between these counter protests and the other, the opposition protests that eventually turned into riots that we have been seeing over the past several weeks. With that being said, also, I want to hear from you guys. What do you make
Mhm.
about what happened today and, the situation in the Islamic Republic?
Now, I have a few things I want to say, but I mean, naturally, you will see a lot of people coming out to condemn this because whatever it started as was not what it was co-opted into. So we know that the counter protests are going to be larger than the riots themselves. I'm talking about the riots here, not the protests that were protesting the inflation
Legitimate
and the
protest.
economic. Yes, the legitimate protests were instantly co-opted and hijacked. And so these people are against the rioting. Many of the people who are protesting in the very few first days are against the rioting. So it's only natural. They have a national awareness. They know that this is being exploited. And there's something I just want to mention before we talk about the context, how this started, what's happened, is that one of the biggest mistakes that people are making when it comes to Iran, especially now, is assuming that what they're seeing online is organic and that it's real people and real momentum. We've had investigations. One was Haaretz and the Marker, backed by technical analysis from Citizen Lab. And there was another one by Social Forensics that shows Israeli-linked influence operation targeting Persian language social media. So there are networks upon networks of fake accounts that push AI-generated videos and deepfakes and fabricated on-the-ground reports, including during Israel's 12-day war on Iran, but also before, during Masa Amini protests in 2022 and after. And some of these accounts post things before they even happen, spread the news that Iranian cities have fallen to protesters and now the protesters have taken over and I don't know what. So Citizen Lab assessed that this network was almost definitely operated by Israel or the contractors operating on Israel's behalf. And they trigger unrest, by the way. They don't just spread content. They trigger unrest. They incite unrest. They urge people to take to the streets, to storm facilities, to escalate chaos. And they present themselves as ordinary Iranians online, most of them the origin of which is outside of Iran. And the second investigation I mentioned was social forensics. It was funded independently by the NIAC, and it looked at something even bigger, which is the structure of Persian Twitter itself. And it analyzed, this was a few months ago, it analyzed 1.5 million tweets from over 213,000 accounts and found that the Iranian Twitter sphere is one of the most heavily manipulated digital spaces on the planet. And so the conclusion was actually that roughly 95% of so-called monarchist pro-Reza Pahlavi accounts were fake. And these accounts, which are marked with crown emojis and these nationalist slogans and so on, were mass-produced around specific moments, like the death of Mahsa Amini, for example, back in 2022. So they flood hashtags, they flood content. And so this is what you need to keep in mind when you see what's happening online with the content and the information that's being disseminated. And this pattern is really impossible to ignore because you have real grief, real grievances, and it gets hijacked automatically by these networks, plus the cells on the ground that are waiting to carry out lethal attacks, a destruction of property, and it all works together. So when you see this kind of momentum online, just ask yourself how many of them are really, organic. And who built it? Ask yourself, who boosted it? Who is it benefiting? And do you believe it? And can you verify it? Because in 2026, with everything that we know, I'm just flabbergasted, I think is the word, by what we are seeing online about the Iranian revolution. People are convinced that this is a revolution now because of this online momentum. So
every time it happens, right?
I have so much more to say, but let's hear from Karim and then you, and then I want to go back to the context of how this started and how, the deaths that have taken place and why they've taken place.
Exactly. Karim, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, of course, Seema said it as better than I would have said it, but also I want to shift the conversation or shift the topic, because what we are seeing in Iran is far more or less what we saw in the United States, is far less what we saw in Tel Aviv. The protests in Tel Aviv for the past 3-4 months were bigger than that of Iran, knowing, of course, that Israel is a smaller country and they have far more less population. And we're seeing the riots and the protests in the United States. But of course, the same thing is happening in Iran, but in a smaller case and bigger case, of course. But of course, that's what we always talk about. We talk about Western propaganda, and we talk about Western narrative. Still, the West controls the narrative, unfortunately, and control the propaganda. That's why many people are feeling, and even my friends, they're telling me, what's happening in Iran? Do you think they will last or whatever? I always, my answer is one. Iran is a sovereign country. It's not like Syria. It's not like Lebanon. It's not like any other Arab country that's controlled by other country. Iran is a sovereign country. They have institution. They have companies. They have many things. They have the government. It's not like other countries that's controlled by one person or one like a family, and if something happened to this family or person, the country will collapse. So that's what I want to clarify. And also I want to clarify something, Dani. The riots that are happening, of course they are organized and people were killed. I read from officials that they said over 100 people have been killed.
Security forces and police.
Yeah, security
over
forces
109
and
at least. That's security and police alone.
Yeah, and they want like a new regime and blah blah blah. So I want to show some videos now. For instance, this video, we see a bunch of of people protesting, and they entered a mosque and they destroyed a mosque. You can't take over a government in a Muslim country by doing this. And imagine you're in any Christian country or in India, for instance, you want to change the regime, and then you go and destroy Buddha, for instance, or whatever, or you kill cows, or you go to a Christian country and like burn and
the
destroy a church. So nobody will follow you. Nobody will accept you. This is the same what's happening. And for instance, this is a mosque. What would a person, okay, get if he destroys a mosque in a Muslim country? It's in one of the name of Iran is the Islamic Republic of Iran. So this is one. And for instance, there's another video. It's a very short video, but also this shows us the violence and what these people are doing. For instance, and here, So here we are seeing children, okay, and this is the door of a mosque. Yeah, Sima.
Yeah, it's also.
Yeah, this is also a mosque, and now you'll see what will happen. They are throwing Molotov and the entrances of mosque. Yani, this will not lead to anything, in my opinion. And of course, the media is hyping everything, so the United States will interfere, and everybody's saying what will happen. The United States will interfere, and the people protesting will take over the country. I don't think this will happen. Maybe the United States and Israel, they might bomb Iran. This is another topic we're going to discuss, or we might discuss. But for now, these protests and what's happening in Iran, okay, is not an indication that the government or the regime or whatever people name it will fall. That's what I wanted to clarify.
I think Sima made a very clear distinction in the size of the protest, right? Between the Masa Amini protest.
Of course.
They are much smaller. Yeah, they're much smaller than the Masa Amini protest.
They are radically violent.
Yes, if they reached 100,000 even, which they haven't, they are in the thousands, that is still less than the Masa Amini protest. And the violence, we did see it during Masa Amini, of course, but Masa Amini, much more time had passed, and it was only around, I remember because I was covering it extensively, it was only around 80-something security and police forces killed by these terrorists in the streets after a long time had passed. Here, we are not even, I think, we are not even 2 weeks in, and you have over 109 police and security forces killed. And I've been saying this on my social media, I'll say it here. These people are doing their jobs. They're not shooting at people for no reason. You see them being ganged up on and attacked and killed, and they are suffering just as much as their fellow, countrymen are suffering. They suffer the same hardships that their people are suffering, and killing them doesn't achieve anything, just like destroying a mosque. I mean, I can guarantee you that these people attacking mosques, attacking firefighters, attacking paramedics, attacking shops, attacking pharmacies, attacking hospitals, all for which there is evidence, and there's been billions of tomans in damage, I can assure you that none of these people were the same shopkeepers and merchants and traders that were closing down their shops and protesting at the end of December. I can assure you of that. Sorry,
I just wanted to jump in very quickly. Someone in the chat says, Cradle rooting for Basij and the IRGC versus Iranian people. Spoiler alert, Basij and the IRGC are also Iranian people. They are also Iranian.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get these
comments. It's not about
rooting.
It's not about rooting. It's not
about rooting. It's about when Mossad supports the protest, you can forget about it. And if you were protesting and the protests get hijacked by Mossad, the fun's over and you go home.
Not only that, even ignore Israel, ignore everything. We saw the protests in Syria, what got for the country, 14 years of destruction and American sanctioned, and the result was the head of Al-Qaeda, Nusra, whatever you name him, Al-Julani, whatever. Now he's the head of Syria, and his people committed massacres to over all the minorities, Alawite, Shia, Kurds, and Druze. And we saw what the protest brought to Libya. Libya was the richest African country per GDP and PPP for a decade. And now Libya, nobody knows where's Libya. Libya is now 3 countries. If you want to go from a city to a city, you can't. And nobody knows what's happening in Libya. That's the result of the protest. And in Yemen, when the protests took over the government, Okay, Saudi Arabia came and bombed them, and they made a 10-year war against Ansar Allah. I want to ask the person who said this, are you with Ansar Allah? Because Ansar Allah took over Yemen out of protests that were from the people, but your bosses in Saudi Arabia and UAE came and bombed them and made a 10 years war. And of course, what we're seeing in Iran and what happened in Syria, and this comes, unfortunately, I will say it, for the low IQ or low education of our region and this stuff. Yani, people are saying that Iran is poor and blah, blah. Iran is poor because, or the people are suffering because of the US and Western sanctions.
I
Not
think
because
you know,
of the government. And the same in Syria, because of the Caesar Act. That's why they are suffering. And then when Trump, who imposed the Caesar Act in 2019, came and lifted the Caesar Act, everybody is clapping for him. That's what they are doing. They are doing the same agenda for different countries. And it depends. In Libya, it was about tribes because 99% of Libyans are Sunnis. They went to the tribes. And in Lebanon, they want Sunni Shia. In Syria, they want Sunni Shia, for instance. In Iran, they are playing the ethnicity card. Azari and Kurdish against Persians. It's so clear. This will lead to nothing but chaos unless the government takes over everything. I'm not talking about Iran. I'm talking about across our region.
I also
want
find
to-
it funny to frame it as like rooting, like with IRGC against the Iranian people when the protests, quote unquote protests, were less than 1% of the population.
yeah,
I really find it funny.
Significantly.
I find it very funny.
Unlike what we are witnessing in the United States, because really I'm saying, across many states and even governors of states are protesting what Trump is doing, and nobody is saying, oh, the regime will fall in the United States.
I think, yeah, you know, like when is somebody going to bring some democracy to the repressed people of the United
No,
States?
there's something though. If you
I
go
want
first,
to,
Chris.
I want to, yeah, I just want, there's something I really want us to, well, I just want to comment on, and it's something you're going to hear me say a lot this year. And it's that you cannot have any serious discussions about Iran, about Venezuela, about any of these countries, about Syria, without talking about sanctions, without talking about the effect of sanctions, which I feel have gotten a pass, you know, in particular in mainstream media, in the mainstream discourse. What effect do sanctions have on the regular population? You know, just a couple of months ago, Al Jazeera published a study that showed that U.S. sanctions have essentially disappeared the Iranian middle class, right?
Exactly.
Sanctions are a weapon of mass destruction. They are a weapon of war. They are used to create what you could even call it a slow burn genocide. They are there to starve people, to block them from medicine, from anything that they may need, right? They block a country from doing any type of business. And like last week, you know, I will direct our viewers, if you haven't seen, I think it was last Thursday's episode or the last one where Charmin was with us, she talked about the currency crisis in Iran and what causes it, besides the sanctions, which are already number one in the list of the of what is really behind this crisis, even before, you know, the Mossad operatives, even before the rioters and the violence, etc., etc. Then, you know, there is even policy papers that talk about exactly what we're talking about. Karim, actually, I sent you a link on our chat. Maybe you can put it on screen. This is an analysis paper from the Brookings Institution from 2009, titled "Which Path to Persia?" And it's essentially 170 pages outlining
important.
different ways to overthrow the government of Iran, to install, you know, a Western-friendly puppet regime that would act as a colony, as what they are trying to do, you know, with a country, for example, like Venezuela now. So it's very dishonest to not have this conversation without first discussing the effect of sanctions, and second of all, without discussing how this has been U.S. policy for decades at this point, to use economic strangulation to try to get what they want out of a country.
Yeah, but even if you take the sanctions aside and you focus on bad policies or economic mismanagement or whatever of the government, I'm going to be against these riots because these riots destroyed the opportunity for the people to mobilize to get a result from their governments. Now, what I mean is, if they were striking and the officials were starting to, you know, take it seriously and deal with the issue, if it hadn't been hijacked, you would have seen maybe wider nationwide strikes that can, this is a direct action. You can paralyze the economy and you can force the government to act because you deserve that of your government. So even if you put sanctions aside, it's like as soon as it's co-opted, of course we're going to stand against these rights when these rights are destroying any hope for these people to achieve a result. Because as we said, the destruction and the killing of paramedics and security forces and children and mosques is not going to fix the inflation or the unwise policies of the government or the mismanagement or any of that.
These they killed a 3-year-old, right?
They did. They killed a 3-year-old who was on the way to the pharmacy with her father. They killed a nurse. They're killing rioters. Rioters are killing rioters. Okay, if you look at the death toll, and it's in the hundreds, let's say, and over 100 of them are security forces, the remainder are killed by both terrorists and government forces. And what do you expect to happen when the thing is co-opted? You should go home. It's very simple. I would say that to anyone, and it's a hot take maybe, but that's how I see it. But anyway, the grievances were real. They're not invented, and people are demanding like relief, and stability and dignity. But when you're going to take it over, you're destroying their hope for any kind of results. And like you said, it's the collapse of the middle class with inflation that's surged past 60%, and the currency losing half its value. And every day, the day-by-day life becomes extremely difficult. And the government moved to try and, at the time, like cushion the poorest with cash support, but that didn't work for the middle class. And so, the middle class are watching their savings evaporate and their businesses like grind to a halt. And so these strikes by merchants, if they had been left to themselves, I think would have achieved something great. That's how you go against the government. You strike and you force them to act. And now we have no hope of that anymore. You know what I'm saying? The leverage was lost because it was hijacked by Mossad violence. And then whenever you speak up about that, they're going to call you like an agent of the Islamic Republic, which is insane. So of course sanctions matter, but I'm saying within that, there's no room for anything else when you take over like that. Of course, we can't stand with such riots. The protests were flooded with armed elements. They are being recruited to flood the protests with weapons. Exactly. They're being recruited to aim at people and hit them in the head, shoot them in the head. I think there's grenades, there's bullets. It's insane.
You're very correct, Sima, in pointing out of how these essentially killed the momentum of any legitimate protest that could have existed. At the same time, you have the diaspora not only waving the monarchy flag, which is already clownish in its own way, but waving the Israeli flag right alongside it. I mean, at this point, they're not even trying to hide it. They're not even trying to hide their real interest. You see it in LA, you see it in London, you've seen it here in protests in Canada. I've seen them, waving the monarchy's flag next to the Israeli flag. And it honestly just makes me, want to laugh about, how can anybody take you seriously when you're waving the flag of an illegitimate state that is committing genocide and laughing about it in the face of the world and also threatening to bomb your country? Remember when Netanyahu, in the middle of the drought that Iran was facing, he sat in front of a camera with a tall glass of water and drank it and was talking about how much he cares about the Iranian people, how it's time for them to overthrow the regime, right? Like it's now or never, Iranians. We love you. We want to help you. I mean, just that is enough reason to not join the protest movement. I don't know. That's how I would feel if it was up to me. And if the moment you see who's standing on your side, maybe reconsider your side.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very simple, guys. Like, it's not that nuanced. Of course, what's nuanced is like, yeah, the government has a lot of issues. The people deserve better from their government in a lot of ways. There's a lot of problems. Completely. But why should you stand on the same side as Israel and the US when there's history that proves what that leads to? Recent history. And what you're saying is it's not just these diaspora monarchists or whatever are literally begging Trump to bomb their country. As someone's mentioned in the comments, you have the Mossad Farsi language account publicly urging Iranians to take to the streets. Israeli officials too. You have Mike Pompeo saying Happy New Year to the Iranian protesters and every Mossad agent walking alongside them. You have Trump. And now, what's so funny? Now, all of a sudden, after the damage is done, Israel is trying to reverse course, and Israeli media said that Netanyahu has now ordered all his ministers, after the damage was done, to clear all Iran-related remarks through his office after all the damage is done, you know, you can't. They publicly encouraged it, they amplified it, and now they're like, we have to appear as neutral observers in this, you know. And a part of them knows actually that if they attack now, they might kill this so-called momentum that they're perceiving, because Iranians might unite around the fact that they're being bombed by Israel, and they don't want that because they saw a very strong demonstration of that during the 12-day war. But anyway, so now all of a sudden they're like, we're neutral, after they openly declared. So now we have, you know, before we would have the Iranian authorities, who not everyone believes, saying we have evidence and we have this and we arrested Mossad agents and so on and so forth, as we have this time in abundance. No, this time, for the first time in history, you have it very clearly that they have openly declared that they are behind this, okay? And so if they come 2 weeks later and they're like, oh no, okay guys, tone it down, it's too late this time. It's too late, you know. And by the way, the first few days, it was obvious how lenient the authorities were being, from how they were being murdered in the streets. And I think that was part of them leaving it to see how they can identify who was behind this, you know, through surveillance and stuff, because it wasn't until the last 2 days, there's been internet cut off for over 70 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And eventually, in the last 2 days, especially, the crackdown got very intense. It was nearly like a martial law atmosphere that descended, actually. There's the whole Starlink thing, and now there's foreign reports.
That's
that Iran
actually
has-
where I wanted to jump right into. Actually, Sima, yes, I actually wanted to get Karim's opinion on this, but because there's been reports on, I think it was Iran Wire, the first one who came out with this, saying that the Iranian army managed to shut down Starlink, which it's huge. I mean, really, it's a massive, massive development if it's confirmed to be true. I mean, they were talking about Iran, these are, you know, what would you call them? Opposition, right? Or a violent opposition, were in control of about 10,000 Starlink packages inside Iran. And then all of a sudden, their connectivity started to drop, first from 20% to 80%, and then to essentially nearly nothing. So they're talking about it. The Iranian army has been using jammers to block Starlink, right? Because after Iran cuts access to internet to try to, you know, quell these violent protests, Uncle Elon, right, jumps in. Elon Musk jumps in to save democracy, right? Because if this man loves something is liberty and freedom and democracy, activate Starlink, and now Iran has essentially shut it off. I think this is a game changer, right? Because Starlink has been kind of that. I don't know how to describe it, right? Like a card under the sleeve that all of these pro-democracy groups around the world would always have, knowing that, you know, if the United States back you, if the fascists in the White House back you, then you probably have access to Starlink whenever you need to. Now, that seems to be off the table, at least temporarily. What do you think about this, Karim? What do you make? Yeah, I know you are a very or tech expert here at the Cradle.
So yeah, them cutting it, I think I read it that they said that China helped them. I don't know if they did them on their own or with the China aid, although I doubt China and Russia will do anything unless they want to test their new equipment in Iran or to aid Iran. I went to Iran once, and to be honest, with or without the blackout, accessing internet in Iran is like very difficult. The normal social media that we use, for instance, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, is very difficult in Iran to access. And they shut down the internet because, according to the Iranian government and to officials, they said that many of what's happening in Iran is due to groups that are controlled from outside, and they are telling people online how to act and where to protest and who to shoot or what to do. So this is part of the crackdown that Iran is doing, and I think as a country they have the right to do that.
Of course they do, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I think 3 years ago, Erdogan shut down Twitter and Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, and nobody said anything. Trump was going, or the whole United States, they were afraid from TikTok because it's Chinese, and everybody treated it as if normal, and then they bought it. So this is something normal that even the United States and Turkey and other countries do, and we know China. China, they don't have any Western application that is accessible in China, including Google stuff, يعني Gmail maps, and that's not because they are closed. That's because the West are using such social media applications to manipulate the masses and to overthrow governments. If these applications are neutral, none of this would happen. Yani, for instance, meaning that, for instance, I am Iran or I am Lebanon or whatever. If something happened on, for instance, Instagram, these countries or the countries of this region, we can't tell or ask, for instance, Instagram or Mark Zuckerberg or Meta, and okay, give us the information of this guy. He's committing crimes. They will not do it. They have to, oh, privacy. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, in other countries, whatever they want, they will do it for them. So this is the double standard. What happens in our region, and I think it's a normal thing unless things goes back as they were. I think the blackout will remain more than a week.
Until they feel, I mean, I would imagine that is until they feel they have things under control. We'll have to see what happens tonight.
Yeah, and regarding Starlink, sorry, because you asked me the question.
Yeah, don't worry about
it. I didn't. Yeah, Starlink for me is a very sophisticated technology that should aid the whole world, but unfortunately, Elon Musk turned it to a political tool. He used it in Ukraine, and now he used it in Iran. And for instance, the first Arab country that had Starlink is Yemen. And all these things shows us also that Elon Musk and Starlink is also politicized, and they want to use it to their own benefits or political benefits. First, Elon Musk had no problem to open Starlink to Ukraine, but suddenly when Trump came into power and he said that he's against or he doesn't like Zelensky, then Elon Musk shut it down, and now suddenly he wants to open everything for Iran. And we know these services are very expensive. My question is, who's paying for them? You need an equipment on land to capture the signal, and there's a subscription. So if you're opening it to all the people, from where they are getting the equipments, and who's paying for that?
Well, I think we have a few guesses of where this money is coming from. Donald Trump is asking.
I think it's insane to go to freak out over them shutting down the internet when what's happening in Iran is literally like it's a war. Like, this is a state of war. Like, this is a war being waged on Iran. And it should be treated that way. So if they need to shut down the internet, they're going to shut down.
I think, the 12-day war, it ended the hostilities, the direct hostilities, but it didn't end the war, right? And if anything, we have seen Iran over the past, what has it been now, 6 months? Dismantle as many Mossad cells as they can. They were, arresting hundreds of people at one point. Dismantling all of these cells, etc. But of course, it's obvious, it's apparent after what's been happening over the past couple of weeks that even that work wasn't enough, that there's still plenty of these elements at the ready. Also, as Karim often likes to point out, Iran is a huge country. And it has a population of 90 million. So even keeping the lead on top of all of that, of course, is going to be difficult. There's also the lingering question, right, of when is Israel going to attack? This is really not a question of if anymore. This is truly a question of when. There was this, you guys must have seen it. I think it was last week that there was this Polymarket user who was betting on Israel attacking Iran before January 31st, and this was the same guy who made a user who made a lot of money predicting when the 12-day war would happen.
Right. Yeah.
So there's all of this talk, all of this chatter also that about how Israel doesn't want to wait any longer to attack Iran, and how Donald Trump is essentially at the behest of Netanyahu, right? Like whatever Netanyahu says, Donald Trump agrees to. So the question, right? The title of this podcast, I don't know, maybe it will rub some people the wrong way. Maybe I saw some people in the comments saying it should be the other way around. Is Israel going to survive a war with Iran? The truth of the matter is that now you have, again, for the second time, I think in 3 weeks, the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, talking about a dialogue with the United States. And even Donald Trump himself said it, that the Iranians have approached the U.S. to have talks again. I imagine nuclear talks. It's the same talks they were having before, sanctions reliefs, etc. So, do you guys think there's any hope for diplomacy here anymore? I mean, me personally, I don't see it. I feel like diplomacy at this point is just a fool's game. It's just like waiting to be stabbed in the back. It already happened once. Why won't it happen again?
And I think Bazakshian still wants diplomacy. No, Sima? They love it.
I think they know there's no diplomacy, but they just keep the door open and they reiterate that over
Because
and over again.
Trump said it. They said that the Iranians approached us.
Yeah, I don't believe Trump anymore.
هلا in this
Trump
case,
said that Ansar Allah begged for a ceasefire. So
yeah, I know. هلا, regarding,
Classic.
I think, as we said it, if people think that the protests are so huge in Iran, and when the United States come and bomb and Israel will bomb, the protesters will take over, I don't think this will happen. That's one. And second, I think they are preparing. They will do something because yesterday, the Israeli media, Hebrew media, they went crazy. And in fact, yesterday the Israelis, they opened the shelters for everybody. And they tell them, prepare yourselves. And in the Israeli media and TVs, they said that the United States might bomb Iran. And the Iranians will retaliate inside Tel Aviv, not directly to the United States bases in the region. So they are preparing themselves. And in the last month, they made a couple of drills in the north of the country. And of course, last week they made a drill and they tried a new ballistic missile. We don't know anything about the missile, but people viewed it, and there's videos about the missile that Israel tried, and they said it's a long-range missile. So everything is open on the table. هلا if we think as Trump and the Israelis, for them they finished Hezbollah, they finished Syria. Iraq is already very, very weak. And you have Yemen. We saw what's happening in Yemen. Something is cooking in Yemen still. Till now we don't know the reality of Yemen, or after like 1 year or few months what will happen. We saw clashes between UAE-backed mercenaries and Saudi Arabian-backed mercenaries, and maybe the aim is Ansar Allah, the ultimate goal. So for them, for the Israelis and the West, they have to finish the job, as Trump loved to say, and to finish that job is to finish Iran. Hala, if he has the same information as he had when kidnapping Maduro, I will say it confidently, they will not finish that job.
I think we need to.
because-
Sorry, I thought you were.
Yeah, tell me. Need what?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because just 2 days ago and yesterday, the news is coming up from the United States that it's not as Trump said. They can't extract the oil. The oil is very heavy. The oil is very pricey. And if they want to extract the oil, the global market should be, sorry, I forgot the number, but it's above $100. And he sat with the investors, Trump, and they told them, and they told him, according to the Western and the American media, that it's very difficult to extract and sell oil. It's not as easy as he thinks. He thought all the oil in the world is like Texas, just like
No,
got them from.
It's even
from
better,
Ghana.
Karim. It's even
Yeah, tell
better
me.
because yesterday he gave an interview to the New York Times in which he said, "I didn't even know there was oil in Venezuela." It just kind of was
I didn't
stumbled.
see that.
Yeah, he said like I sent all of the ships to because they were sending drugs and they were sending bad people, and then
Wow.
the oil just happened to be there. I mean, oh my God, look, oil! And one last thing, guys, before I let you go on. This is Al Jazeera reporting just now. A U.S. official told the Qatari medium outlet that planning for a military operation against Iran has reached advanced stages, and Trump is seriously considering it. So, take that with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, we hear these things up really constantly, but I do not think that they're going to wait too much longer. I do feel like this is imminent. At the very least, that's how it feels like. But yeah,
I don't
like
blame you for feeling
yeah, I
that
mean,
way.
it's always so much disinformation. What you were talking about, Sima,
Yeah.
just about the how big these protests feel in social media. There's one thing, and I'm sure, many of our viewers already know this. We have a very informed and well-educated audience, of whom I ask, leave a like, guys. But you guys know that social media is a weapon. It's being used as a weapon to create narratives, to formulate, like a reality that doesn't really exist, to give excuses, right? So now they're doing it with Iran. Soon enough, they'll do it with whoever's next on the list.
Yeah, I just want to say that everybody they say that I am pessimistic, but in this case I'm not. Just to clear this. And in the chats, the people are asking where is Sharmeen. Sharmeen will be with us this Thursday.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, no, I mean, we don't know when they're going to hit. We don't know who's going to hit. We don't know if the U.S. hits alone. Will Iran respond at bases or against Israel? Will Israel hit? We don't know anything. We have Wall Street Journal and Axios, our all-time favorites, who've reported that, Trump's being briefed on all the different options that he can take against Iran. But with these reports, I think it was Axios as well, apparently there's this hesitation about, when, but this could be deception as well. But I mean, the point is they don't believe, like according to their estimates, they don't believe that the Iranian government is on the brink of collapse. Well, if you have a brain, then that makes sense. And
that is very true. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the White House needs to make sure it's like fast and hard and looks like it's achieved what its aims before they do it. I don't know about Israel though, because for Wall Street Journal they're saying like there's a briefing that's for tomorrow, 13 January, Tuesday, where they're going to cover all the options that can be taken against Iran, as if they're not already doing all these things against Iran, from like cyber operations and targeting military and civilian infrastructure, additional sanctions, plus the option of military strikes and applying pressure through coordinated messaging and different ways to target the security forces, maybe not through direct military strikes, but again, cyber warfare. So there's this hesitation though, and it could happen in 2 days and it could happen in a month and a half, and
I think, I will always remind people, there was a report just a few months ago in one of these, outlets, Western media outlets, in which they essentially pulled back the curtain on what we had seen before the 12-day war, which was all of these chatter about how Donald Trump is just fed up with Netanyahu, right? Oh my God, I hate Netanyahu. And then they put out this report saying, oh yeah, the White House was actually fueling these rumors and benefiting from them, with the idea being, they don't know we're actually planning to attack them. They think that we are fighting amongst ourselves, when in reality we have been planning the attack together. Which attack am I referring to? Is the one in which Israel killed almost the entire of Iran's military command, dozens of their nuclear scientists, and up to 1,000 people in total, including many hundreds of civilians during the 12-day war. So mistrust what you read in Western media, but do not mistrust their intentions, because their intentions are very clear, and it is to destroy Iran. It is not to liberate Iran. It is not even about regime change. It's about the destruction of Iran. This is Israel's aim, and I feel like, and maybe what Israel, the way we should see it, is that they are planning an attack that would, in their way of seeing things, degrade Iran's capabilities enough so that they can continue, kind of do that like
this hybrid warfare.
Yes, like these start and stop wars, right? Like I will bomb you for a couple of weeks, and then we'll beg for a ceasefire, and then 6 months down the line we'll bomb you for a couple of weeks. And that's why I feel it's so dangerous that the Iranian foreign ministry is again out there being so, asking for talks, asking to sit down and have talks. And, many here, including Sharmeen, would probably tell me, no, but that's how you're supposed to act, it's international and this and that and whatever the other. Me personally, I feel like we are way past that point. We are dealing
100%.
with white supremacists, with Jewish supremacists. We are dealing with people who are seeking the other's extermination. There is no living alongside these people. There is only defense of the homeland, defense of their people, defense of the revolutionary process, whatever that may be, against modern-day Nazis.
Yeah, 100%. And especially if something happened, they want to do anything for Iran, or if they accomplish that regime change, they will kill as much people as they can. They will destroy the facilities as much as they can, as they did in Syria, because in Iran, it's not like Venezuela. For instance, for the Israelis, Iran is a big threat, and they want the country to be torn and to be very weak. It's not about changing the regime. It's not about getting a new Shah. even if they succeed, they will not allow any person to rule Iran as he wants. They will keep on committing massacres. They will keep on trying to divide the country because their ultimate goal is not regime change. I'm talking about the Israelis. The ultimate goal of the Israelis is to keep the surrounding countries, and especially Muslim countries, weak. They succeeded, unfortunately, in Syria because of the Arabs and because of the Gulf countries, and now they are getting some of what they did, especially Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia and Yemen. And they did the same to Iraq. They forced George W. Bush, and we all know it, the biggest lie in the human history, the lie that
They killed 5 million people.
resulted in millions of deaths and making a very beautiful and ancient country that was very powerful, very weak, and we saw what they are doing. And still now, for instance, nobody talks about it because the Americans did it, of course, but I love to always mention it, is Fallujah. In Fallujah, they used uranium to an extent that till now, many kids that are born, they are born like they have this formation.
Deformed or
they are
cancer.
deformed, and cancer. And if you just go, sorry for that, and if you don't have like the ability to see such pictures, but anybody can go and just type on Google Fallujah kids or babies and see what the United States did in Iraq. So that's my opinion about that. And I think the educated people in Iran, even if they are against Khamenei and the regime, because to be honest, there's many people against them, but there's enough educated people not to allow the West to interfere. As Sima said, the protests were genuine at the beginning, at the first 2 days, and people were protesting in the bazaar and closing their shops, and suddenly the Mossad people came and hijacked the protest.
I think, I want to just one other thing that you brought to my mind, Karim. It's unfortunately, what happened in Iraq, it's in what's happening in Iran right now, or what happened in Syria last year. It has we can point to these nations being abandoned, by everyone else. And I feel like, for example, Venezuela is a similar situation. The U.S. was only capable to do what they did in Venezuela, in particular, announcing it, because everything that happened was announced. In one way or another, they were talking about it openly, and then they went and they did it, and they only managed to do it because the people of Latin America stood apart. They did not stand together, and they still are not standing together. Venezuela was left to fend on its own, and then Cuba is going to be left to fend on its own, and so on and so forth, until enough people realize that this is the path to extermination. As we have said before, and we'll say it again, what's happening in Gaza is a product for export. The use of AI, the mass killing, the media whitewashing, everything, the torture centers, the disappearances, etc., everything that they are perfecting inside of Gaza, it's meant to go abroad. Hell, we're even seeing it with ICE, right? Who trains ICE agents? It's IDF soldiers. It's soldiers of the terrorist army of Israel. So let's not be shocked anymore, and let's not pretend that international institutions or international law are going to protect us, because they're not. They're really not. It's really up to us, And I feel like, of course, in the Arab world, people have known this for a very long time. But in other parts of the world, well, you better start learning that lesson, because it's going to be, it's going to come sooner than you think. I don't like to be the doomsayer, but it's unfortunate. We are living in very desperate times. And I think, unless you guys have any other thoughts about Iran, maybe we can talk a bit about the situation, of course, in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the toll that people are reporting, Western rights groups in Iran. There is, I don't know if you remember Esteban the Harana, the HRANA, human rights activists, I think. So that is a US-based group. They are reporting that it's over 500 people killed. As far as I'm concerned, if that number is real, it includes the security and police forces. And again, as far as I'm concerned, I would estimate that half were killed by terrorists and rioters, and the other half were killed by government forces. But HRANA, or Harana, is the US-based media arm of an organization funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, the NED. For those of you who don't know what the NED is,
It's the soft power arm of
basically
the CIA.
the soft power arm of the CIA. In 1991, the former president of the NED said that much of what we do today was done by the CIA 25 years ago. So I'm not saying that that means that the Harana report is false, but no number should be consumed, uncritically, especially amid an information war. There was a video of bodies being identified by their loved ones at a forensic center, I forgot where in Iran. And this is a video that's being circulated as though all of these bodies were killed by government forces, when in reality, if you watch the family members of of the dead, the testimonies, it's from the testimonies, it's clear that some of them were killed by rioters while just trying to get from point A to point B, for example, or they weren't even part of the protest. So you have to really think critically, when you consume stuff. If you want to show us the video of some Iranians who were out showing support and condemnation for the riots.
نسبت به ترامپ به خاطر گزاف گروهی که
ترامپ من آدم حساب نمی‌کنم باش حرف بزن ولی بمیره.
من معترضم ولی بخواد پای این لجنزارا و صهیونیست و سکتوله‌هاش جا باز بشه نه. ما هرچی هم با هم دیگه مشکل داشته باشیم ولی این که بخواید اینجا قد علم کنید نه. ما هستیم جونمون رو پای این کشور می‌ذاریم.
هیچ کشوری به ایران من نمیتونه دست بزنه.
یا فریب خوردن یا کلا از جاهای دیگه اومدن. ما مردم تهرانیم و باشون وایسادیم.
کسی که از این خاک از این مرزبون باشه آرامش مردمش رو به هم نمیزنه.
ارزشو ندارم. ما یکی وجب از خاک ایرانمون رو بهشون نمیدیم. امت هممون فدای رهبرمون، فدای کشورمون. خیلی شدیداً باید مجازات بشن.
ببین اون موقعی که 8 سال ما جنگیدیم یه سیم خاردار هم نداشتیم. الان که دیگه در حدی نیست. نه اینجا ونزوئلاست که بخوای شبونه بخوای یه بازی سوری رو نه
دریا در دست نمیشه با این صحبت‌ها. جان ما و همه ایرانی‌ها فدای رهبر ما.
استریا اونور مرز یه خیالای باطلی کردن.
حالا رهبر
جانم فدای رهبر بدون هیچ نگرانی از نگاه‌های دوستان آشنایان
اسم یه سری گرونی‌ها یه سری اتفاقات هستیم ولی هیچ وقت مشکلات خالی نمی‌کنیم.
عاشقتم آقا جون چی بگم جونمو برات میدم هرچی دستور بدی دستور بده با کله بریم تو شکمشون هرچی شما بگی.
من واقعا تا جون دارم و چقدر دوست دارم.
مردم ایران همونطوری که تا الان بودن باید چشمشون فقط به سخن رهبری باشه. کلام ایشون همه را آروم می‌کنه.
سید علی عاشق.
Yeah, you get the point. Some will call this propaganda, but then it's great counter propaganda to the Israeli propaganda.
I mean, it's what we
Yeah,
saw in Venezuela too. All of the people marching and being we want our president back, right? I mean, you're gonna see it anyway, and there's discontent. There's of course discontent about these riots.
Yeah, I just want to comment over something you said, Esteban, which is very important. And as you said, maybe people in Latin America will not understand it because they didn't live it. But around 20 years ago, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah in a speech said that about 14 years ago, when the riots started in Syria and the Gulf countries started to pump their money, he said something that lives with me. He said, you remember Charlie's Hebdo, whatever, there was...
Charlie Hebdo.
Hebdo, yeah.
Yeah.
The first time they made a cartoon, they mocked Islam and the Prophet Muhammad, and millions of Muslims went to the streets and they were very, very angry and in Denmark or whatever. This is not the important part. The important part said, Sayyid Hassan said, part of what's happening in Syria is destroying mosques and destroying important facilities in Syria. So, and everything is broadcasted live on TV. So people will see it as a normal. Because then when Israel comes and make its a big war, when it destroys thousands of mosques or hundreds of mosques every year, nobody will say anything. They will kill I don't know how to say it, they will kill your, Sima help me. They will kill your, the things, العنفوان اللي عندك. the passion, they will kill the passion that's inside you as a Muslim to defend your religion, because you've seen hundreds of mosques destroyed already. What will one mosque destroyed by Israel differ? Same as Esteban said, if they started with Venezuela and they did it in a smart way. First, they announced that they will bomb some ships, and they did. And then they started to bomb fishermen, and they did. And then if the fisherman didn't die, they killed him again, and they bombed them again. And now they start with Venezuela, and so on. They will start in other countries, and then they will do it in Cuba. Then it will be normal to do it across the globe. Yeah, they will do it. I wish they will do it in Greenland, to be honest. Yani. And the funny part
for all of us.
Yeah, and I just read that Germany and France are ready to deploy blah 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 in Greenland. That's who wrote it and who believed this is very stupid, to be honest. Imagine that a French guy will defend Greenland against the United States. This will never happen. If troops are there, if French troops are there, are for gathering information for the United States. How is the best way to conquer Greenland? That's the role of the West, especially in the European Union. That's the role of the Gulf monarchies. That's the role of Israel. And they all serve the intelligence of the United States, how to conquer and rule and divide and rule the whole globe.
The statements
Divide
on
and
Greenland
conquer.
are very amusing. They're very amusing, but I don't think Europe's going to do anything.
It would be, I mean, I don't know. I feel like their brains would explode the moment that they have to start treating the US as an enemy. I don't mean the people of Europe. I mean,
they
the
don't have
government.
an army. Europe, they don't have.
That's
an
what
army.
NATO is supposed to be, right? That was
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the whole idea of
Even
NATO.
NATO is nothing without the United States. People, people don't know that. For instance, France, they have maximum 300 tanks, or UK, they have maximum 250 tanks, and they have some amphibians and some. They don't have anything.
Let me mention two things actually that I think are very important. If you want to know why it matters so much to start talking about defense, a united defense against a rogue nation. Donald Trump not only asked last week for a $1.5 trillion defense budget for the War Department, right, which is already a signal enough of what the plan is moving forward. He also made a statement that kind of went under the radar, in which he blocked U.S. arms makers from receiving some payments until they boost their the production of weapons. So he's essentially holding money hostage from weapons makers, right? From the military-industrial complex, from RTX in particular. He was talking about RTX specifically, saying they need to boost the production of weapons, of bombs, of anything else that they make before I let them start, profiting from. I forget exactly what it is, but let me look it up once I'm done with my comment here, and I'll tell you guys. But I think that's also very important, because Donald Trump is preparing for war, for a big war. And I don't think the rest of us need to be caught with our pants down. And in particular, nations that can actually defend themselves, like Iran, or the Russian or the Chinese, which have been very quiet, let's be honest, about everything that's been happening. I mean, they put out statements, and we have heard that, there's support, the usual, right? But other than that, they seem to just kind of be sitting back and watching what is Trump's next move. And I don't know. One hopes that there's a plan in place.
They are watching like us. They are not watching to act. Yani. I would just want to clarify what he means.
They're just watching.
Yes. So I don't know, guys. If you want, actually, no. Here it is. Let me read you actually, so I can give you the correct information. He said he would not allow defense companies to buy back their own stocks, offer executives large salaries, and issue dividends to shareholders until they boost their production. And he singled out RTX Corp. Like I said, Donald Trump is preparing for war.
Yeah, it's clear, and they changed the name of the
Defense Department.
Ministry. Yeah, I know it's childish, but that's how how they act. And the funny part, we saw sorry, it's tragedy, but it's the irony also. We saw the signal. Many people forgot about it. Why? Because the United States controls the narrative. The signal.
The signal chats, you mean?
Signal chat. That we saw how the Americans act and talk to each other before bombing and killing innocent people in Yemen, and we all knew that the video that Trump pointed out was like a cultural dance for Yemenis. And he said he killed terrorists, and we
He
saw
shared
how,
the video of the killing.
yeah 100%. It's tragedy, but it's funny, tragic funny, I don't know how to say it. So we saw them how they act, and we saw that he clearly doesn't know how hard to extract the oil in Venezuela. He thought it's like Texas.
He didn't know about it, Karim. He didn't know there was.
I know, but I think that's many people tell me, oh, that's the United States. You think they don't know? With this cabinet, 100% they don't know. There's many evidence. There's many leaks, true leaks, facts that tells us that they act as if they are the boss of a neighborhood, as if he's a gang and there's a neighborhood and they just take decisions. Because what happened in Venezuela and in many places, and he's keep talking about Greenland and about Cuba and about all these places. It's insane.
There's someone here in the chat says something that is actually very, I think, kind of goes to the heart of the issue, in particular to Venezuela. Saba 731 says they want Venezuelan gold because dollar has no value anymore. They collapse badly. I mean, look at what's happening with the head of the Federal Reserve right now, right? Like Donald Trump is sending his goons after him, and the dollar is plunging. Like today, the dollar was actually going down, and then gold and silver, it's going up. So you also have this internal fight, of which here, we don't often get the chance to discuss. But internally, the United States really is crumbling. It's a crumbling empire.
And they don't control their currency because the central bank is owned not by the government, it's owned by Zionist Jewish people.
Exactly.
Which is the only thing, it's the only country in the world that doesn't own its own central bank. It's insane. They control it more than any people, beyond any imagination, how the Zionist entity controls the United States in these aspects.
Be careful, Karim, they'll accuse you of being an anti-Semite.
Anti-Semite.
But I think we should actually move on a bit and talk about, like I said, the situation in Gaza, which truly, continues to worsen, even that's unbelievable as that may sound. Just a bit of a preamble. This week, it was expected that Donald Trump would announce the start of phase 2 of the ceasefire, which is, a very cruel joke in the face of Palestinians who are still wondering when is phase 1 going to start, because there's been over 400, up to 500 Palestinians who have been killed since the announcement of this very poorly named ceasefire in October. The New York Times had a report, an investigation just a day ago, in which they say that Israel has destroyed 2,500 buildings since the start of the ceasefire. And of course, they have this very fluid yellow line that they keep moving, they keep taking territory. I just wanted to mention that very briefly. Sima, why don't you tell us a bit about what's happening?
Yeah, and everyone should, before I talk about this, everyone should ask themselves, why are they demolishing all the buildings in Gaza? Ask yourself, why are they systematically demolishing all the buildings in Gaza? Because it's not only, to take measures against Hamas so Hamas can't hide out in the buildings. It's to completely cleanse the land and take it.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, the killing hasn't stopped and the genocide hasn't stopped. It's just slowed down. But for the sake of reports, they are now reporting that they want to resume attacks on Gaza. Times of Israel and Wall Street Journal are reporting that Israel has drawn up plans for a renewed large-scale assault on Gaza, as they call it, potentially beginning as early as March. And as you mentioned, Esteban, we have, since the ceasefire, not only 2,500 buildings destroyed, but over 440 Palestinians killed, thousands injured. Now, the focus apparently would be on Gaza City, which means they'd want to do another ground invasion, which is absolutely insane, with the explicit goal of expanding the territory that Israel controls inside Gaza. And that, apparently they can't proceed without U.S. approval. It's pending U.S. approval, but we all know what that means. That's just for this. They have to just, put that in there so that it seems like,
They gotta throw the Trump a bone.
Yeah, so Israeli and Arab officials told Times of Israel that these plans are already in place. And the same sources say that while Netanyahu publicly committed, of course, to advancing the so-called ceasefire, he doesn't believe Hamas can be disarmed through negotiations. And so the army is preparing all these contingency plans for a full-scale war, as if we aren't, as if we ever stopped, as if the war ever stopped. So the ceasefire is kind of, like you said, they're pushing the yellow line. They're killing daily. They're destroying. Wall Street Journal also reports that another round of fighting, as they call it, will take place. So that's 2 reports we have, which makes it, more of a possibility here. Captives, for the most part, aren't a constraint. I think they haven't found the last Israeli captive soldier yet. So there's only him. And against this backdrop, Hamas is willing to, again, hand over its governance, like dissolve its governing body, basically, and hand it over to an independent technocratic Palestinian body. And I think the factions are meeting in Egypt about this now or this week, later this week. And Hamas spokesman said that they've already taken a clear decision to dissolve the existing governing bodies and facilitate the committee's work, but the committee has to be formed for that to happen. So once again, they're calling on the Palestinian Authority to rise to the occasion and, make some decisions together and stop delaying. But again, this is all about, Hamas isn't disarming as the excuse to continue ethnically cleansing Gaza. There is, I don't know if we talked about this last time, there's the Bulgarian diplomat that Israeli officials appointed for Trump's board of peace. His name is Nikolai Mladenov.
That's very important what you just said. I'm sorry, Sima, to cut you, but just like Israeli officials appointed him.
I'm pretty sure it was Israeli officials.
They announced it. It was Netanyahu who announced it. I'm not disputing your point. I'm just, highlighting.
Maybe it was the U.S., but I remember that it was Israeli officials. But yeah, so he's supposedly been selected to lead the board of peace. Wasn't it supposed to be Tony Blair before? I don't know. Anyway, yesterday...
It was supposed to be Trump initially. He said that it was going to be him.
Well, Trump's the overseer. Hamas leader Mahmoud Mardawi said that no official proposal had been received by Hamas about this, and again rejected any form of international trusteeship over the Gaza Strip. So we're left with this ceasefire that's just an escalation and not de-escalation, and like the demolition of neighborhoods and a catastrophic humanitarian situation and healthcare system that is completely in tatters. And phase 2, supposedly, will be announced in the middle of this week, but Trump might postpone it again because you don't know and he doesn't know and nobody knows. That's basically where we're at with this in terms of political developments. The Palestinian factions meeting in Egypt and Israel saying it's going to attack Gaza again, as if it isn't occupying and attacking Gaza every single day.
Yeah.
So,
no. It's
the West Bank is a whole other thing, and then the 48 is a whole other thing. We talked a bit about that last time, but
no, it's very
Gaza
important. We can't stop talking about Gaza ever. We cannot stop talking about Gaza. We cannot stop talking about the West Bank.
They want to distract from Gaza. They want to distract from Gaza.
I would actually go one further and say they've succeeded in distracting from Gaza. They managed,
For sure. With Venezuela and Iran.
Venezuela, Iran, whatever's next, Greenland, like this very absurd situation that we find ourselves in. And at the same time, I was just checking Ynet, the Israeli outlet, and they're talking about something that we already heard a couple of times, that the Israeli army is being ordered for a massive boost in their budget to increase their military capabilities, apparently. And, this is according to Hebrew media reports, there is concern about a possible cut in U.S. military aid down the line. Netanyahu just a few days ago, he talked about how Israel needs to become, they need to taper off because of, and reach a defense self-sufficiency, right? Like genocide self-sufficiency, if you will, because apparently there is this concern, right? That especially with the becoming midterm elections, which I feel are going to be a massive inflection point, not just in the U.S., but also just like in general, right? It's going to be a make or break moment for Donald Trump and his little, project that he has been building over the past a year. And so So in any case, there's obviously
he said 10 years, and he gave it a timeline.
he did give it a timeline. Exactly. He said 10 years. He said, actually, no, what I was seeing right now, let me pull it up again. They're talking about a 5-year plan, actually, the IDF.
Ooh.
A 5-year plan is called the Hoshan 5-year plan, which will end in 2030. In the shadow of the Army's fear of a drastic and large-scale cut in the U.S. military aid program, and with the danger that will also be the last, et cetera, et cetera. They approved this plan, but at the same time, remember that in November, they were lobbying, and they're still lobbying for a $20 billion plan for the U.S. to arm Israel, I think a decade long. So, they really seem to be hedging their bets either way. At the same time, we at the Cradle, we just posted this. Let me just, because since we're talking about this, let me briefly mention. Israel is set to privatize two of its two largest defense firms within the coming months. That is the Israel Aerospace Industries and Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. They want to go private. I mean, if anything, this is kind of like they're trying to get cash, I would say, right? They're trying to get some cash to continue to build their military capabilities. Just like the United States is preparing for war, Israel is also preparing for a very long, very bloody war. And it cannot just be them, right? It cannot just be the Zionists committing genocide who are continuing to foresee the future, if you will, right? Or set the stage. I forget, Charmin has a term about this, right? In which, like, who imposes the strategic reality to everyone else? We're coming to the point in which someone else needs to impose facts on the ground against the Zionists and against the U.S. empire, right? Because if not, then there's really not going to be any stopping this.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything, Simo? Because
I
have
had
to
something
say.
I wanted
Okay.
to say, but I don't remember, so you can go ahead.
Okay, so I have to give my opinion of what you just said, Seba. What we said now is very important. I think they are doing this because they know they will not get another Trump. They know that Trump will be the final boss, if we can say, because what happened and what 7th of October and following the 7th of October they exposed how the Israelis operate. They exposed that everything that comes from the Israelis is a propaganda. It exposed the AIPAC, and they were exposed how they control officials, and videos are spread, and everybody knows about it now. And the youngsters, which means the new voters, will not vote for, or the majority of them will not vote for anybody that follows the Israelis. So this tells us why they said 5 and 10-year plans, because they know they can get the full support they used to from the Americans. And also at the end, you mentioned something about...
They're privatizing their companies.
Yes, also because, for instance, if you're Saudi Arabia or UAE or Egypt or whatever, or no, because these countries, they don't care about their people. For instance, you're Spain or you're whatever, Canada, and you want to purchase Israeli technology or war machines, or you don't care about them, you just want to give money to the Israelis and support their actions and their military wing. Now, instead of saying or going public and saying that Canada purchased equipment from Israel, now they will say, oh, this equipment came from a private company, and the Israeli name will not be shown. So that's what they are doing. They know their situation, and upon that, they are acting and taking such decisions. That's my opinion.
I think it's some in the chat. Sophia loves monkeys. What a great name. She comments: Germany just approved a 3.1 billion arms deal with Israel, buying Arrow 3 defense systems. Yes, this was just a few hours ago.
The defense
So
agreement.
I think you actually make a very, very good point, Karim, in your last point, right? Because, for example, and this might seem absurd at first glance, but look at what happened with the Israeli cycling team, right? Remember the ones that were getting boycotted during the cycling races? What was their answer to that? Change the name. Just rebrand and remove Israel from the name. So I think actually, yeah, you are onto something here, because polls are showing this.
Yeah, and also AIPAC, I forgot exactly what they did, because they did like 3 months ago and I only read it once. Now they pay another company to pay the politician. Usually they were directly paying him, so they are shown on the website, because in the United States, any politician should like to show you from where he gets money. So now they are getting such small companies or small donors, and they give them the money, and then they will ask him, for instance, Sima works for APAC. Oh, Sima, go and give money to X and X and X without showing the APAC name. So that's how they are playing it. But I think that many people in the United States are very smart, and they know how to track, and they know how to do softwares and websites, and they already did. And there's many links online that shows you who is linked to APAC and who gets money directly or indirectly from APAC.
It's going to become I don't know, like the mark of the beast. I can't think of a better way to say it. Like it's going to be a very difficult thing to shake off, especially in the US, right? Like you had politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene essentially saying, you know what, guys, there's nothing we can do. There's really nothing that can be done about the rot in the system, so I better just leave, which is actually, I think it shows that people are realizing that if there's no path in the established system, well, maybe you need a new system, right? And the United States, we talk about it a lot because of what it entails and how much horror it has brought across the world. But the truth also is that internally, the U.S. is headed for a civil war. I don't think that's any avoidance of that. This is a people that are going to start fighting each other soon enough. They are, they have the most mass shootings. They have the most school shootings. They have the most weapons per capita. So
they missed one thing, Esteban. They miss U.S. embassy in Washington. That's why they don't have a civil war yet.
They don't have a U.S. embassy. Yeah, they don't have a U.S. embassy. That's, I think, Chavez said that years ago. That's the only reason why there's never been a coup in the U.S. So, guys, I don't know. I think maybe we can wrap it up for this week. I think.
Yeah, look, there's so much. You saw the escalation on South Lebanon yesterday. We're not going to get to it all today.
We can't. And, Syria, also the situation in Aleppo is essentially kind of the same as the last time we talked about it.
Even though there was a ceasefire, there were a bunch of...
They like to announce ceasefires. Damascus under Julani loves to announce ceasefires would last for like 2 hours, maybe.
They shipped the Kurdish fighters out in buses, the Asayish, and...
it's horrific images too.
They tortured a bunch of people. Yeah, they tortured a bunch of people.
Yeah, we discussed this, and I suggested that this might be a solution to move the people from there.
That's the recording says 16,800 tickets canceled for the World Cup. God, one would hope. What a disaster that's going to be.
Another fun thing before we say goodbye. Lebanese president in an interview yesterday was just basically straight out said that, we're not going to have anyone resisting or fighting, from our territory anymore, and we don't want to disturb the stability of other countries. So he essentially means we're going to protect Israel without actually saying it.
Carry on with your genocide in peace.
And he says after his term, he wants to go back, he wants to retire from politics and live on his farm. And so today in the office, we were like, why don't you just go live on the farm now? But anyway. Lebanon yesterday in the south, there was really bad bombing, around 30 airstrikes in one day. And in one place. And it was like a residential complex made up of 10 buildings. And residents even urged the army to come inspect it so that Israel wouldn't bomb it, but Israel bombed it anyway. So we'll get into Lebanon next time. Yeah, we'll get into Lebanon next time.
Unfortunately, Lebanon, Yemen, the situation is also continues to brew. Interesting developments there, but I think the situation in Lebanon is also critical, given the proximity to the Zionist entity. I want to thank everyone who joined us today. Just a friendly reminder to leave a like, to check our merch page where you can get some very cool merch. I also like to again call out the people I met, the friends I met this weekend who were wearing some of our merch. Very cool to see it in the wild. So go ahead, get your Cradle hoodie, get your Cradle mug, get your Cradle t-shirt. You can find it on our website. But above all, please check out our Patreon. And if you can, become a member, become a Patreon, support the Cradle.
I wanted to say thank you as well, by the way, to everyone who did since last week. It really means a lot to us. We have these little milestones, like our end goal is 5,000. But our first goal is 1,000. So halfway to 1,000 is 500, and we're almost at 400. So we're really happy about that. And Esteban, when you sent us that photo of somebody wearing one of our hoodies at this event that you happened to be at, it kind of clicked in my head that wow, people actually what we do actually resonates with people, because sometimes it's really hard for me to.
It was very weird. It was the first time I ever someone recognized me for the work I do at the Cradle. It was very strange.
Like
Yeah.
I forget that these people are actually like they actually appreciate what we do, and I'm so thankful for that because, again, with Patreon, like just seeing the numbers going up because you guys are like, you believe in what we do, it really means a lot. And this show exists in the way it exists because we don't want to be owned by anyone and don't belong to anyone, So we want to keep it that way when it comes to our
We
editorial
value
line.
our independence and we value you, our readers. And yes, I just want to echo
That's
what
why as
Sima
little
said.
as $5 a month can just like secure our future, and we really appreciate everyone who's since become a patron and who's giving us a chance to, just like be on this journey with them. So thank you.
Exactly.
so
Thank
much.
you so much. Truly, thank you so much. And even if you're here, if you're unable to become a patron, then just leave a like. The likes are free.
at least comment يعني شو like
Leave a comment.
and like.
Hey, like and comment. That's it. That's the entrance fee for this podcast. In any case, thank you everyone so much. We will see you on Thursday.
Thank you, guys.
Karim. Thank you, Sima. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
Esteban.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Karim.
Bye.
The Cradle exists because the world does not need another mouthpiece. It needs a mirror and sometimes a megaphone. We report from West Asia, from inside the region, not from Washington, Tel Aviv, or London. We're fiercely independent, no government directives, no corporate backing, no editorial leash. We publish the story that legacy media buries, and we do it at great risk. Our reporting unsettles the powerful, exposes contradictions, and gives voice to the silenced. But independence is not free. If you believe West Asia deserves to shape its own narratives, now is the time to act. Click the button, contribute, keep the Cradle independent, and let us do the legwork for you.